generic in shared accounts. Control C.4. And the principle here is simple: if everybody is the user, then nobody is accountable. Here's the case that proves it. January 2021. Ubiquiti, a networking equipment manufacturer, announces a breach at a third-party cloud provider. The stock drops sharply. But that is not what happened. An FBI investigation, a whistleblower from Ubiquiti's own security team, and eventually a criminal prosecution revealed the truth: it was an inside job. Nicholas Sharp was a senior developer at Ubiquiti. He used his legitimate access to the company's cloud and source code environments to clone gigabytes of proprietary data. Then he posed as an anonymous external attacker and sent his own employer an extortion demand, about $1.9 million in Bitcoin, to not release the data he had taken. But here is what made it work for as long as it did. Sharp carried out his activity using shared administrative credentials that were not uniquely tied to his identity. So when the logs were examined, they could not attribute the actions to any specific person. He knew that, and he exploited it as part of his concealment. What eventually caught him was luck: his VPN dropped once, and his home IP address landed in a server log. Federal agents found the cloned repositories on his computer. So what does this control cover? Two things. Every human being gets a uniquely attributed account, no exceptions. And every service account, the non-human logins that let systems talk to each other, has a named owner, a documented business purpose, and properly managed credentials. The entire point is attribution. Without it, you face two distinct problems. The first is accountability. When a shared login does something damaging, your logs cannot name the person, which protects bad actors and cripples incident response. Shared passwords also outlive everyone who ever knew them, including people who have left. The second problem is service accounts, which accumulate quietly over years with no clear owner, passwords that never change, and access far broader than the service needs. And default accounts, administrator, root, SA, that shipped with the system and were never touched. At Ubiquiti, the gaps were specific. Shared credentials for the cloud environment instead of individually attributed identities, which is fundamentally incompatible with accountability. Broad standing access, rather than access provisioned for a specific task and then revoked, which would have made the volume he pulled far more conspicuous. No detection on data volume at all. Gigabytes leaving a code repository should trigger an alert regardless of which account did it. And service accounts treated as an afterthought. So what does good look like? Individual accounts for every human, shared accounts are for automated processes only, and only where there is genuinely no alternative. A named owner, an assigned system, and a documented purpose for every service account, with unowned accounts disabled. Service account reviews at least annually, disabling accounts whose service no longer exists or whose password has not rotated. Default accounts disabled or changed before a system ever touches the network. And a privileged access management tool that checks credentials out on behalf of a user without ever revealing the password, so sharing becomes technically impossible. How does an auditor test it? You export the account list from Active Directory, Cloud Identity, and key applications, and flag everything not uniquely tied to a named person, things like admin, backup, or SVC_report. Each one needs investigation. For the shared accounts you find, you look for evidence of actual sharing, concurrent sessions, or logins from multiple IP addresses. You review the service account register for named owners and documented purpose, and accounts without either are findings. You test whether service account passwords have genuinely been rotated inside the defined period. And you sample systems deployed during the year to confirm default accounts were closed before production. 5 lessons. 1. Eliminate shared human accounts. Every person gets their own, because a shared account is an accountability gap that shelters bad actors. 2. Own every service account, since one with no owner is an unmanaged access right waiting to be used. 3. Use a PAM tool for privileged accounts, so credentials are brokered rather than revealed, and you get attribution and session recording even where a shared credential would otherwise hide activity. 4. Monitor for anomalous data volumes independently of the account, because gigabytes leaving a repository is strange no matter who is logged in. And 5. Disable default accounts before go live, and make it part of the deployment checklist. Generic and shared accounts is Control C.4 in the ITGC framework. I'm walking through every one with the breach that proves why it matters every week at marcoweb.org. Subscribe to get them in your inbox, and try the free ITGC audit tool.